Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Sam and welcome back to It's All Just Semantics. We're doing a sit down for right now, partially because I'm tired. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my current works in progress. I've been mentioning a whole bunch of them lately, and I just kind of wanted to break a couple of them down right now and kind of put them not really so much in a priority, but so much in a where they're at, where we're going with some of these. So let's get started. The one that I know most of you probably joined this channel when I was working on would be my Redler series, which is a 4-book interconnected standalone series of sorts that follows 4 different siblings, that follows the 4 Redler siblings. These are 3 boys and 1 girl, and they're romance books with a touch of a thriller aspect to them. Because I can't seem to write just a normal romance, I need to add some extra drama into it. But that's mostly because my least favorite tropes in romance are miscommunication. Like, I despise the miscommunication trope. If you couldn't sit down and have a 5-minute conversation, you guys are not mature enough to be in this relationship. That's where my mind is at it, because I was not mature enough to be in relationships that had miscommunication tropes either. So I stick with that with my writing because that's what I would prefer to read about personally. But the Redler series is a series of 4 books. Like I have said, I have fully written out one of them. I've completely changed it since then, but I have fully written out one of them. I wrote out what will be the 3rd book, which is Katie's book, which is the youngest one's, the sister's book, and I have written over half of the 1st book in the series. This series, I go in waves of writing, honestly. I do need to be in the mood for a romance when I write these, and I honestly have just not been in a romance mode lately. I really haven't been at all, but I absolutely adore this series. I've got several tropes going on in each one of them. I did make a full video about this series, so if I can figure it out, I will put it up here. I think it's on this side, and I'll link it down below so that way you guys can watch that video if you want to. But just know that one is still a series that I'm working on. I am looking at it every so often. In fact, the other night I actually reread a lot of the scenes that I had written, trying to figure out where it is that I lost my interest in it, my mojo in it, and honestly it's just because I'm not in a romance mood, but I'm starting to get back into it now, so maybe that'll change. I don't know, we'll see. The next one that I'll talk about is going to be my most recent work in progress that I've talked about, and that's Project Soup. Now, Project Soup does not have a working title. My Redler series, each one of them has a working title. I'm just not sharing those right now. But Project Soup does not have a title. It does not have a solid plot line. It does not have a reason for this. But what it is it's inspired a lot by The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and it's a traveling epic fantasy story that takes place in a world that is in my head. I have it mapped out and I have their journey mapped out. I just need to come up with a lot of the details for it and kind of write it down. So this one, we have 4 main characters as of now. I have a soldier, a bard, a deserter, and a healer. So those are our 4 travelers. They're all in a party together, attempting to make their way from one island to another one in order to talk to the Dragon King there. Now, the Dragon King lives within the what am I calling it? The Bone City. So it's a very high fantasy. There's a lot going on. There are creatures. I've made up a couple creatures that I'm sure somebody else has made up, and I just haven't read every book in the world, so I don't know. But there's a sea crossing, there's isles, there's a plague, there's a lot of stuff going on in this book, but I am so excited to be working on it, and it's really filling that desire in me to write something that's super high fantasy and super just kind of it's not based in romantasy, it is high fantasy, that it's based in the problems that this world is experiencing, in the magic there, and it's in the people in the kingdom itself. So I am very excited about this one. It's going to be a long process to write this book, but I cannot lie, I am so excited to work on it. The next book I'm going to briefly talk about, but not super in-depth, is I am working on a co-author fantasy book with my best friend, and that one is a high fantasy with romance in it, but it's leaning almost towards romantasy, so we'll see where it ends up. But I'm not going to talk a lot about that one on this channel because it's not just my work, it is also her work, so I'm not going to talk about that one really here. But that one is one that I am working on, and I just refer to it as my co-author fantasy book. There are books that I have started that I haven't been working on recently, and one of those is one of my oldest works that originally had the whip name of Basil Green, so that is one that I am still looking at. That is one that I'm still planning on working on. I just have not looked at Basil Green in a very, very long time. I actually did pull up my original draft of that book, which I wrote back in 2022? No, before that. I think I wrote it back in like 2020, 2019, somewhere around there. Like, it was a while ago that I worked on this book, and that one evolved into a trilogy that it does need to be read in order, but it follows a different couple in each book. So it's fun. I'm really, really liking it. The first book deals with necromancy. The second book deals with flame powers, and the third book deals with more paranormal aspects. So there's a lot going on in this world that I've kind of created for this, and I don't want to get into the details because it's a weird one. There's a lot going on, but I'm really, really excited about it and really looking forward to where it's going. I do think I'm going to end up picking it up again because I miss writing in it. I really do miss writing in this world. And as I have taken about a year or so off of actually actively working on it, I've come to the conclusion that it is romantasy and that I need to treat it as such. And because of that, I need to change a couple things in it, which is fine, and I have no problems with that, but that is something that I am learning how to do. I've never written romantasy before, so we're gonna see how this one goes. But if you ever hear me talk about Basil Green, that is a story that has been in my head for years. I just haven't gotten it to where I want it to be yet. But I did write the entire first book for that one. I've written almost two full drafts of that book. And then I have the beginning and the ending of the second book, and I finally figured out what happens in the middle of the second book. And then the third book is finally falling into place of where I want everything to go, which is excellent, very exciting. So that one is a book that I probably will end up working on at some point. The last novel that I'm going to talk about that I am actively working on is one that I've mentioned occasionally on here, but I haven't really fully talked about, and that is going to be a thriller that I'm working on, and I'm just calling it Undertaker for right now because one of my main characters is an Undertaker, and it felt weird to call it detective because that's too generic for my head, and I needed to distinguish it from a cozy mystery. This is a thriller, and it's basically a mystery with thriller aspects is where this one's going. So I do have the first act of it fully outlined and the last act outlined. I just need to figure out the middle in my outlining process, and then this one will be one that I will finally be able to start working on. I don't know when I switched from being a pantser to being a plotter, but now I basically need an outline so I know where my stories are going. to know how I'm going to be outlining it. I don't know what happened, but now I must plan most things. Not everything, but I must plan the general of what's happening. Like, I don't need to plan the details, I need to plan the general. The details will kind of fall in, and those will match up later, and it'll be great, but I need to know the general, which is proving slightly disadvantageous? Now, there are other books that I have talked about on this channel before. I've talked about other fantasy books, I've talked about other thriller books, I've talked about cozy mystery books. I probably have talked about a couple other romance books as well, but those are the main ones that I am considering that I am working on right now. There are hundreds of ideas always floating in my head, and for people who want to be authors and say they can't come up with inspiration, I challenge you on that, mostly because I have too many ideas and I don't, like, I'll never write them all, but not all of them are also worthy of becoming a full book. I have tossed out at least 5 ideas in the past 3 years just because I've started getting into it and realized that this doesn't go anywhere. This isn't something that I'm going to be able to make into a full-length novel. And so they're gone. They have left the building. Yes. But we'll get there. I'm really excited about this, and I'm really excited to take you guys on this journey of me writing these books, because this is still my goal of what I want to do with my life. So if you have any questions, I would love to hear them down below. If you have any suggestions, I'd also love to hear them down below. But that's my short video here for you guys for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. It really does help me out in the long run. I also didn't say I'm also half writing. I'm writing like short stories, but I'm also working on like a nonfiction short story collection with my sister, because this is a book we've talked about writing for years, and so maybe that'll be a thing that we'll talk about eventually too. But that's what I got for you guys today, and until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, keep reading, and keep moving forward. Bye!